Unfortunately, Pizza Dad had some sort of family emergency type thing, was unable to participate, and because of the ruling regarding open qualifier teams, actually get a stand-in. It wouldn't work. So the end result is now they are down 2, but I was just talking to PQ last night, and he still, despite that ruling, seems confident in what they can accomplish today. So I'm kind of rooting for them in my heart just because of that, but we haven't really seen the results from this team, and obviously they had to fight through the open qualifier just to get here. So I would say Leviathan are the favorites, but Boreal, they definitely have a heartwarming story if they can maybe find a win here. Anyways, Leviathan currently 3-1 with 4 points on the round robin, just narrowly trailing Digital Chaos. Thanks once again for tuning in here. We're getting into the draft between the two teams, and I'd like to introduce myself as well as my co-caster. I myself am Blaze, and I'm going to be joined this time around by Grandis V, a freelance caster that's been doing a lot of work with Hefla TV. Tell me about yourself, man.
Hi, you pretty much nailed it on the head. I'm a freelance caster that's been working with a lot of tournaments around the scene. Currently, I'm covering a tournament over in the Brazil Game Cup, but we do a lot of games here and there from Join Dota League especially, and I've cast both of these teams for a long time, mostly for JDL through Boreal Esports, but Team Leviathan, I've seen them quite frequently, and at least Jenkins, I've seen him forever. Like when I was just starting out casting one of the small amateur tournaments I was working with, he played under a team name, I believe it was Bag of Chips Pepperoni, and they were always really fun to watch and always brought interesting hero picks. Although this game, it looks like things are going to be a little bit more vanilla. They're going to start things off with a Queen of Pain Winter Wyvern. Queen of Pain probably going to be played by Jenkins, although there is always the flexibility with picking up that hero.
Yeah, and of course we see the Doom once again. This hero has become more and more prevalent in the metagame. That Scorched Earth buff allows him to be a lot more active in the early stages of the game, has that damage as well as sustainability, and of course he is classic Doom. He practically deletes a hero from the game. He will, especially with the Aghanim Scepter effect, make one hero's life very miserable unless they're able to get maybe like a Lincoln Sphere online. But they've got the Ember Spirit along with that. We'll have to keep an eye out on who's going to be running that. The roster for Boreal has shuffled quite a bit over the past few months. So there's two that I'm not very familiar with. He's listed as Bakemono here, and the other guy, he's got a number of aliases, and I can't even read his official name tag, but Coney is, I think, what we're going to go with for this cast here. So those two guys, I don't know as well, but it looks like Coney plays a lot of those kind of skill-based mid-heroes, stomping the lanes with like TAs and Embers and stuff. So I expect the Ember Spirit to be what he picks up for this game, and we'll see how Leviathan respond. Right now they've got some good lockdown with the Winter's Curse of the Winter Wyvern, some good ability to move to and from the fights with the Wisp that they just recently picked up. They have a lot of ways they can go with the draft from this point forward, though. You're kind of a couple of your heroes that go with the Wisp frequently, especially the Alchemists, are taken out.
And right now, I think the biggest issue for Leviathan is the fact that their lockdown, although it is very good with the Winter's Curse from the Wyvern, is not incredibly reliable throughout the game. It's very cooldown reliant, very ultimate reliant from that Wyvern. So I'd love to see them pick up some sort of core hero with a stun at the very least. But lucky enough, most of the IO partners do have that. And I'd love to see something like a Sven this game. Although I'm not sure if that's the IO partner that Leviathan will land on. They'll go for the tiny, the more tried and true, the more classic duo.
Yeah, and that works perfectly fine. You can run this in the safe lane, in the mid lane. You're obviously going to get a lot of quick control, damage burst. Magical damage isn't going to be what afflicts Boreal the most. Doom is a very high HP hero naturally with his high strength values and gains. And the Ember Spirit does have the Flame Guard, so he's going to be able to resist that to a certain degree. But, still the Avatos, a lot to bring to bear. The Queen of Pain obviously offering both here as well as magical damage burst output. So we'll have to keep an eye on if they can maybe find that insta-gib early on. I'm kind of a fan of the Tiny going for a blink before Aghanims these days, but it really comes down to positioning and if that'll actually enable kill potential. For now, though, that's a pretty standard gambit for their second phase. Boreal, though, they went with the Lich as their presumably support in the off lane. We've seen this from Alliance, Ake laning with Bulldog, the Lich, and the Doom as a dual lane matchup. And while it hasn't always worked out, it still kind of causes the safe lane farmer some difficulty because they're losing a creep every other wave with the sacrifice, and later on every wave with the sacrifice, which is experience and gold that he's not getting. And the Doom is going to be able to devour and constantly get his own form of income. So I think that there's some real value in disrupting the safe lane farm, but they want to approach the mid-game team fight stage, and up against heroes like Queen of Pain and Wyvern, it tends to be difficult. What do you think?
Absolutely. Lich is going to be that constant nuisance, and even if the lane goes poorly, they'll still be able to get experience out of it and keep the equilibrium back. More than that, the Lich also patches up one of Doom's major weaknesses. If you get an early point in that Frost Armor, it's incredibly hard to dislodge in the lane. With Frost Armor, plus maybe a little bit of a buff from the creep in that Scorched Earth regen, killing off this Doom is going to be darn near impossible for Team Leviathan, given their support duo. Io Winter Wyvern, although it definitely has its strengths and is very good, once they get level 6, they're very XP reliant before they can get the burst damage required in order to get that kill later down the line. So that bottom lane is going to be very difficult for Leviathan, and maybe they even consider picking up a solo safe laner, throw the Queen of Pain into the off lane, and have Winter Wyvern move throughout the lanes as needed to mitigate the effects of that Lich dual lane. But now we're going to see a line pickup for Boreal Esports. It's going to offer them a mass amount of lockdown for the Queen of Pain. Going to be annoying for the Tiny to deal with, but maybe even more importantly, it gives them a tool to very easily kill off the Io in these fights.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, any kind of real burst damage is going to be causing issues, and just controlling the fights more effectively will prove great value. I mean, when you couple in the Doom with the Hex, the Earth Spike, you're going to be seeing some good control coming out against your Pain. It's going to be harder for her to move in and out of the team fights as she would prefer. Any kind of AoE stun going to be good against the relocates offensively. And then they're maybe just trying to look for that Chain Frost on the Wisp and the Tiny. Like, if you can get the Earth Spike plus Chain Frost on those two relocating in, you just nearly instantly, and that's going to be a big way to shift momentum in the team fights and in the offensive movements from Leviathan. But you don't necessarily have to go like just two-man YOLO in to a fight with the relocate. What you can still do with the IO Tiny is use it as a split pushing mechanism. Have Queen of Pain pressuring one lane, flash farming and killing off the creep waves and pressuring towers, and when you respond to her, IO Tiny are relocating on towers. They are just chunking that stuff down, especially with the Aghanim Scepter buff that will allow them to really just demolish things. So long term, we're going to be looking for some attack speed for the IO Tiny. I'm curious if they look for another hero that can help that, maybe like a Beastmaster off lane or something. Could be pretty strong, considering that would double up on their single target lockdown that they already have with the Wyvern. So a couple ways they can look at it, but we're looking at Jenkins' hero most likely for this last pick.
Yeah, for sure. Jenkins does play a pretty mean Queen of Pain. There is always that flexibility for Team Leviathan to settle back on, and neither of these teams have for sure shown their lanes. Ember Spirit could be going safe or mid, and Queen of Pain also could be moved in a number of different places. With the Templar Assassin ban coming out from Team Leviathan, I'm not exactly sure if that answers any of those questions. Templar Assassin, although the lane matchup versus the Quap is fairly even, is an incredibly good hero at dealing with Io and Tiny in particular. Until you get items and a lot of levels on the Tiny, his base armor really doesn't hold him through at all, and the burst damage on Io in particular could be very nasty. They have 40 seconds to consider this last pick, and really, it could be just about anything.
I mean, if we look at the most common heroes picked up by Jenkins, we'd be looking at a Clockwork, and there we see
there we go.
Yeah, it's like Clockwork, Tusk, or Putt. Those are the three heroes that he really likes to get in. They're all strength heroes, they're relatively tanky, and they can initiate through different means. So Clockwork makes sense for Jenkins, and it is going to be their pickup here. And yes, the Queen of Pain offlane could have been an option, but I think they want more momentum out of that. I think they really want to get the Queen of Pain's ulti online soon and use that Sonic Wave against the Ember Spirit. You kill off the Ember, and all you have to really worry about then is the Doom's cooldown. If Doom is on cooldown and Ember is dead, you can take objectives like no tomorrow. And obviously Tiny, one of the faster heroes at taking those objectives in those narrow timing windows.
Yeah, one of the weaknesses of going for that Lich Doom offlane is you are going to be drawing a lot of your support's attention off of that lane. I'm not sure they would have been able to deal with the Queen, but regardless, that's still going to give Jenkins a lot of space in his clock so he can get his hookshot up at a reasonable timing. And Slark, although can pounce onto the Clockwork, it's not going to be a reliable way to kill him off until Lion gets about level 3. As a support, Lion definitely needs his experience. We'll have to see how Boreal distribute the heroes across the lanes, and if they really do want to fully commit to that Doom Lich offlane.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting to see the Slark here because it makes the lineup so very greedy. I would say 3 of their heroes are very, very weak until they pick up at least one major item. Jeppins is going to need that Aghanim Scepter. Slark is going to need at least 2 items, one kind of for mobility, one for staying in the fight, staying alive. So like a Blink and a Scotty. Probably just going to go Midas. I don't know. Like, there's lots of ways you can look at this and how you're going to progress item-wise, but the bottom line is Boreal are going to be looking for income. Going to be looking for it very early on. So they're going to be under some pressure to win the lanes and build up quickly that way, because otherwise they're going to be at deficit just because their heroes are weaker, comparatively speaking, when they have less items.
Yeah, and that's going to put the pressure onto the Leviathan side to make sure that they're able to appropriately use the early levels that they're going to get on the Queen of Pain Clockwork to find kills, and the Clockwork is going to be played by Jenkins, TPing to his offlane to make sure that he gets the optimal ward spot. That's going to be unpunished for now. He can pick whatever he wants. Fran Gray or Francis is going to be playing on the Queen of Pain, Nusham on the Winter Wyvern, handled by Flying Zebra, and last but not least, for the Leviathan side, is going to be Shibby handling the Tiny.
Yep, so we'll look over at Boreal here, and we do have Pizza Dad 37. He's going to be the support player here for, under the Lion. That leaves, I believe, Kikoni, to take what I would have said is a mid-Ember. They're pulling some Tangos. He just bought the early Salve, so that kind of confused me a little bit there. But beyond that, interesting-looking Doom is going to be Jeppins on the offlane. Actually plays a very similar hero pool to Jeppins. Not so much the Pudge, but he does love himself Tusk, some Clockwork, and that kind of thing. But the Doom here is kind of that meta, and it was a valuable first pick for them. Pequin, or PQ, is going to be the one to support him, most likely on the offlane. And, of course, that leaves Bakemono on that Slark with a Mango to start. So we'll see what becomes of that. We have here Francis kind of scouting out. He's got the early blink, so if he gets caught in a bad spot, he'll be okay. Searing Chains will prevent blink from allowing you to disengage for a short time, but you can still blink out a pounce. So while you're worse in one respect, you're better off in another in terms of being able to use that spell too.
Yeah, and early on, it's only a 1 second duration on that chains. The best case scenario there is that the Hex and the chains perfectly comboed in order to kill off that Queen of Pain, although possible is very, very difficult. So it looks like we're just going to have one bounty rune going towards either side. And let's take a quick look to see what Jenkins has decided to do with his ward placement. Sentry Ward's going to be placed on this rock right at the edge, blocking that small camp, and then he's going to have a ward spotting out rotations, and I'm not sure if that's entirely inside the box, but maybe even blocking it too.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. That right side of that tree is probably one of the most common spots, other than like putting it inside trees. This one gives probably the most vision towards rotations towards that top rune, and it does in fact block the spawn, but it's also very commonly dewarded. You put a sentry anywhere near that, and it's going to drop down, but say very differently for this northeast one. So essentially he's making these redundant wards so that while it's probable that within the first 2 minutes of the game the observer will be dewarded, the sentry will stay and probably confuse them a little bit in the fact that the camp isn't spawning, and that'll just be more time for the Clockwork to get towards level 6. He'll cog block the lane, he won't have to worry about pulls, and he'll be at least level 3.5 before they're able to actually start resetting the Creequilibrium.
Yeah, this sentry ward placement is one of my favorites. The general D-ward spot for this camp is right in between the two big trees towards the left of the camp that doesn't actually block it, but this sentry is just right outside of that sentry range, and in general is a very good ward. Boreal will also have the pick of whatever they want to secure their offlane, and that's going to be very annoying for them to deal with, especially considering the fact that Lich and Doom have so much region between them. 8 tangos and a salve, and 4 tangos and a salve respectively. They're going to be so hard to dislodge.
So we're going to see Nusham looking for that bounty rune level 1. That'll give him the bottle to start with, and that'll allow him to really help give Shibby some sustain. And while there is that Doom Lich pressure that we're expecting on bottom, Queen of Pain's a hero that can manage that in the safe lane. So Francis, with early starting stats, will be fine to trade hits as well as stay alive in that safe lane. And then we're going to have that ever active dual lane in the mid lane, the Tiny Wisp, which will be looking for some stacks. I believe they were breaking some trees, though not the ones that you... Okay, yeah, these ones are going to be broken down. The northern ones, I saw that when the pause came through, was a little bit confused by it, but it's just a better way to kind of scout out that area and maybe even just pull to the north without getting blocked.
Yeah, for sure. The Radiant range creep was eking out ahead, so the equilibrium in mid's going to be very close. In fact, Lich is going to offer his hand in this mid lane, helping out the Ember Spirit as he trades blows, but if Ember is left alone against the IO Tiny, he could definitely have a lot of trouble. But this Doom should also be just fine down by himself. Although he doesn't yet have Scorched Earth, shouldn't be zoned out, especially since Winter Wyvern's currently on jungle duty.
Yeah, I believe the Lich also sacrificed for his lane. You get one sacrifice for bottom, and the rest will go mid, and that will allow the Doom to kind of at least safely play to level 2, level 3. So he actually gets to go for Devour level 1, which is obviously really strong. Whether or not you're consuming a jungle creep, still get that bonus gold and continuous income towards maybe an early Midas or poorer item. In the meantime, the Wisp is going to be looking for some stacking. Gets just the 1, unfortunately, but still going to be enabling the Tiny to clear those out around closer to level 7. Is kind of common for this duo. Despite the mana sustain, you want to make sure that you get the most value out of those Avalanche and tosses.
Right now, both of these supporting duos aren't that great at getting kills early, so unless somebody gets over-aggressive, we're probably not going to see First Blood for a while. And that'll leave our last lane up towards top, the Clockwork, which is getting a good amount of experience and will successfully get a side pull over on his own creeps, which will help pull the equilibrium back towards his favor. And Clockwork in general is a really hard offlaner to deny out that experience.
Yep, so he's going to stay up here and kind of to it. The Slark has a chance to find pounce opportunities, but for the most part, it's going to be very passive from all sides unless somebody makes a mistake. The Sentry Ward actually dewarded the one that we were expecting to stick. The Sentry Ward on the E-Northeast got dewarded, I assume because of the fact that Boreal made their rotation down south and to the bottom lane. They assumed that Jenkins took the opportunity to ward as deep as possible, and they did take care of that one, but unfortunately missed out the more valuable Observer Ward. Beyond that, we do have now the Doom with his boots and devouring a mud golem. We're seeing that more and more often, that you just get that hurl boulder, which actually costs 0 mana, and you get some good free harass that you can just spam out there. Yeah. So not too shabby for him, and it's just going to be very annoying for the Wyvern. They kind of cross paths.
It's such a big deal that that creep costs no mana. That's the biggest issue with Doom devouring those creeps early. It just doesn't have the pool to sustain usage of any of their spells. So unless you get a good aura creep, this is probably about as close as it gets to the ideal situation for the Doom.
And I think he's going to be able to make it to level 6 all right. The Clockwork is edging him out a little bit in experience per minute right now. That comes down to the fact that Flying Zebra has access to the pull camps. But all in all, I still think the Doom's going to have an okay level progression.
Jenkins with the battery assault catches out Pizza Dad. They missed the pounce, but with the Earth Spike, it looks like he's going to be denied that kill onto the solo support. But Lion needs to be so careful. As supports go, he's very clunky, very low movement speed. With 2 points in battery assault, that really does hurt.
Yeah, obviously it comes down to cogs. Even if you have both your disables, if you got in the power cogs, then you're in some trouble against the Clockwork. But since that didn't get the way that it needed to, it does mean that he'll survive, but at some significant losses. Like even the Rocket Flare canceling out the clarity here and having to share some tangos just to kind of get back online and start harassing again. The boots in particular on the Clockwork is a big deal here. Having that ability to clip on your enemy support while he's worried about buying flying couriers and maybe the next round of ward, that's enabling you to really just post the lane. You get to kind of counter zone and make sure that you're able to stay in experience range constantly. I'm going to see the Wisp actually go for the stack on the Ancients here so that he can guarantee himself the 4-minute rune spawn. And while that means the jungle is slightly less stacked, Wyvern's got that covered. We're going to see Flying Zebra stack and pull and do all those good things in the meantime. So they get some Ancients, they get some runes, and of course that means that Shibi's going to have no trouble in terms of mana, not only having recently buffed the strength and intelligence values baseline for Tiny, but of course having that bottle to sustain him.
They're going to partner up with Jenkins. The IO plus the Clockwork could very easily run down this line with still no boots. They could probably go for the dive, and they're going to try for it. Jenkins pops the battery assault with the movement speed, and with the IO orbs, Pizza Dad going to give up First Blood in just a second here. Pounce under tower. Jenkins is going to take some damage with the overcharge. Can he sustain through this? They're salving up, and Jenkins will yet survive. That's going to be a very well-executed kill coming up from Leviathan, and not what you expect if you're Boreal, especially given their ward vision.
Absolutely, and just a really good usage of the bottle overcharge there. Got all 3 sips in without it being interrupted, and 1 healing salve on top, and that's going to put Jenkins right back up to full HP. So essentially a free kill, only costing the Wisp time and effort, which is great for them. They're going to go ahead and look to bottle the 6-minute rune, and they'll be kind of full reset with a First Blood on their hands. In the meantime, though, Chibi has kind of been left to his own devices here in mid, and with some good Sleight of Fist usage from the Ember Spirit, he hasn't really been able to even poke him at all with his spells. It turns out that now Chibi is actually 15-3 against the Ember's 32-5, and of course, the experience is even worse situation thanks to the sacrifices. But we'll look at bottom where Jeffins has taken some major damage, and with Sonic Wave will be finished up pretty quick. So Francis going for that level 6 Sonic Wave, not needing 2 points of Shadow Strike for this laning configuration. So
yeah, the Doom is going to be...
But experience per minute, 230 versus 330. That's the Lich. How do you think that actually goes on the game?
Hold that thought up towards top. Jenkins inside the cogs will die to 1 more Essence Shift proc. And now with the Blink and Scream, they're going to get the return kill onto the Slark, and Pizza Dad's in a lot of trouble here. They don't have more mana on the Queen of Pain, so maybe he's not in as much trouble as I already brought that out to be. But now Ember Spirit joining the fray, gets the chains, catches out onto Francis. Do they quite have the damage? It looks like no, and he has another Blink cooling down 1 second, will get out to safety. But yeah, back to that experience. It is helping the Ember Spirit in particular so very much over this time. But after 1 failed rotation, there is now an opportunity for the Tiny to come back to parity.
Yeah, I think if he's able to tap into the jungle stacks a little bit, then he should be able to not necessarily even the current experience per minute deficit, but at least catch up to a degree where he's still very relevant with his spells and obviously getting his ulti online as soon as possible. But he can't, unfortunately, make rotations like we saw from Kikoni there, where obviously level 1 sync chains isn't the best thing to try to kill a Queen of Pain, but he's able to try to get involved because he has that level advantage and, of course, plenty of tools for mobility.
Jenkins on the move, has that hook shot up and ready. Killing off this Ember Spirit's very difficult, but if you can isolate one of the supports, that's a pretty darn easy kill. But one of the big things about Pizza Dad in particular picking up that kill in the clock when they trade for the Slark is the fact that this Lion is now at level 5, and for a support that's a great amount of experience. And on a hero that really does need it, getting an early Finger of Death means early kills on anybody, really. That amount of burst damage is not something that anybody can take comfortably.
So at this point in time, we're going to see the first smoke at a seat for the Lion here. It looks like he'll just TP mid, maybe look to put it inside the trees, or maybe just do a little bit of bottle refill action to make sure Kikoni has what he needs here on the lane. Anyways, I still feel like see Jenkins be the tempo controller of this game. He's going to be looking to use his ulti and get involved, but as I say that, the smoke ×2 looks probable, as they maybe want to bait the 8-minute rune spawn bottom.
Or just go for the full wrap. If Doom can line up his Doom onto the Queen of Pain, that's a pretty easy kill with the follow-up that they have from the other two supports, but maybe they bump into the Wyvern instead. Currently completely isolated. Flying Zebra going to pull towards the left, right into a Lich, and Lion Frostblast with the Earth Spike to follow. Very easy kill on that one support.
Exactly. That's just pretty much the perfect opportunity there. You know that the Wyvern's going to be doing one of 3 different things. He's stacking a camp in the center, he's pulling and stacking a camp on the south, or he's going for the bottom rune. In either case, their smoke rotation is there to find a kill opportunity on any one of those, and worst case scenario that smoke stays on all the way to the lane, and maybe they try to go directly onto the Queen of Pain with that Doom you were talking about. For now, though, Queen of Pain is withholding the Sonic Wave. Francis has that available in case a big fight breaks out, but for now, it seems like Leviathan want to play passive. We see Jenkins has TP'd bottom, but how can he actually find a kill on like the Ember here?
No, right now he's going to be killed as he gets hexed up with that Flame Guard. Now with a little bit of remnant forward right into the cogs, Kikoni finds himself a kill. This Ember Spirit is starting to get a lot of momentum. Now double damage rune activated. Probably won't be super relevant in the next couple of seconds of this game, but in the lane, he's 58-9 compared to 37-5, although he's been roaming around a lot, and some of those creeps are from the jungle. He's doing a lot better than I thought he would. Ember Spirit is now going to aggress onto Shivy. The Flame Guard absorbs most of that damage, but still the physical DPS from the Tiny is a little bit too much for Kikoni to keep on going for it, and also those Wisp Spirits after the Flame Guard has expired. So Kikoni's going to be forced to go all the way back to base, drops a Remnant, and will TP back.
So we're looking at 3 heroes that yet to pick up their ultimate. The Wyvern, the Wisp, and the Lich all need their level 6, but through these jungle stacks, looks like Wisp will be getting there very quickly, and I think they want to make their move. The real strength of Wisp, Tiny, and Clockwork all on the same team really comes down to the synergy with the ultimates. When you go for the hookshot cogs, you know that you have at least a skirmish on your hands, and you can follow that up with the relocate to guarantee a kill. It's not going to be working on the Ember Spirit. He jumps away too easily, and even Slark sometimes is going to be a kill they can't find thanks to how slippery that hero is. But end of the day, they're looking for opportunities. The Clockwork hookshot should be the main catalyst for that, and the relocate will be the follow-through.
Yeah, Jenkins just hasn't found very many opportunities, however. He's going to sit on this haste rune, and what a nice off-lane player. Gives it to the Queen of Pain instead. A hasted Clockwork could very easily have killed off these two supports, but right now, those supports are going to smoke up with the Ember and the Lich. They know that there's no Radiant Vision around the corner. They've already dewarded, they had vision on the high ground, and now it looks like they're the ones to spring the trap.
So the only hero that's not level 6 right now is the Wyvern. He's not going to be able to contribute too much in terms of ultimate. In fact, he may die without casting a single spell here if the Hex comes out early. So he'll be able to, if he sees it coming, Winter's Curse right over the side, or go for the Arctic Burn. No, he goes for the TP and is going to be interrupted quite quickly. He does get the level 6 though, that kills up Pizza Dead, and a very nice Sonic Wave ×2. The Cog pullback brings down PQ, the Chain Frost doing not too much as they are able to delta sit away, and Slark will be picked up by the Queen of Pain on the side thanks to that haste movement speed boost. We do have Kikoni here, 1 remnant available, but he really just does not want to tango with this Queen of Pain. Will probably BOT here.
He's going to turn for the chains, but will be just fine. Drops the Remnant, TP's home, and then we'll be able to come back to the Remnant. But that fight in general was a really nice response coming out from Leviathan. That's the danger of going into those tier 1 towers so aggressively, as Boreal just did. You have the relocate that was able to bring in the Tiny, Queen of Pain TPs in, and just like that, what once was just a solo support Winter Wyvern is the entire enemy team. And the Winter Wyvern was able to get off the curse onto the back lines, which really stopped Boreal from doing any sort of follow-up. And now Tiny, again, going to be playing very aggressive up in top lane. Kakoni turns with the Chains, Flame Guard activated, the Avalanche will connect, Slark is going to open up into Shibby, and the Tiny's now not tethered to the IO. He can't get any help here. They need a little bit more damage, and they'll find it. Slark going to pop the ultimate just to make sure they can get in range, and Bakemono going to find himself a kill on the Shibby.
Yeah, unfortunately the tether broke there, but just kind of a miscommunication or a misunderstanding of how significantly that Tiny was locked down by the pounce, by the chains. He really just couldn't get still, I think obviously Leviathan are feeling pretty confident in their current state of the game, thanks to their successful fight up top. The Winter's Curse, I think, was the big thing there. The fact that he was so lucky to get that out in time, and we've yet to see Lion really do. I think he got one spell out that fight, but the Winter's Curse probably caught him off guard, and he got killed off pretty quickly. We're going to see chains come out on Queen of Pain. Those are the level 3 chains. It's not enough to set up the Aerospike, though. And that means he will be. Right now, Jenkins pulling back Kakoni, just wants to force the Remnant, and force it he will.
Yeah, unfortunately for Jenkins, he tried for a hookshot down towards bottom and missed, so that's still on cooldown for 30 seconds. So that opportunity for the Clockwork to set up kills is not as apparent for Leviathan, and they still are losing the war of attrition. And even though I believe Leviathan do have the momentum going their way, this is a perfectly fine state of the game for Boreal since their team is so greedy. You have a Doom sitting bottom, farming with a Midas, level 3 Devour. Slark is getting good farms, so is the Ember Spirit. So Leviathan need to kick it into gear as soon as they have this hookshot again for the Clockwork. The pressure really is on them.
I like the smoke too. The baiting of the Doom. They know the gank's going to be coming soon. They're going to instead be the ones to initiate it. They get some nukes out onto Jenkins, but there will be Winter's Curse onto Jeffins. He's going to be taking a lot of damage. Won't be able to use that Midas before he falls. A quick combo from the Tiny on the backside picks up the Lion as well. And while you can kind of say it's space created for the cores, Ember Spirit's actually trying to get involved in these fights rather than farming it up. Now we're seeing the relocate pullback, and the Doom actually doing a lot of damage to Francis, but the Cold Embrace keeps Francis up fine until the Chain Frost connects. Follow through will hit on 3 different heroes, and Kakoni will look for one more here. No chains until he gets the mana from the bottle, but it will connect, and that gives him...
These fights are so very aggressive from both teams, and the decision making from both of these sides is really quite fun to watch. Right now, the vision on the map for the Dire team is absolutely stellar. They knew that people were backing off towards top as they pulled away the 2 heroes off of that doomed Quap, and she was already pretty low. Francis was very isolated, and it was a really nice play to watch from Kakoni to go in. Usually the Ember Spirit would say, you know what, we just lost a fight, space creator, I'm going to go farm the woods. But instead he's going to get a much larger advantage than he otherwise would. And it's quite refreshing to watch. He's putting this hero to the limits with just boots of travel and Aquila. He really doesn't have that much yet.
Yeah, I mean, Ember Spirit naturally has a lot of fight potential with just his spells, but a lot of players won't come to realize that. They'll focus on farming, they'll get their Battle Furies up, and they will avoid fights almost at all costs, just using the abilities defensively. For example, the Remnant's only for mobility instead of damage, potentially. So, yeah, just seeing it played a little bit differently here is a really nice fresh breath of fresh air. Francis does it too. The Queen player does pick up like really early aggressive BOT plays and just goes right on the creep wave next to a hero to try to find kills. But here we're seeing it in the hands of Kakoni doing some great work and still find the Battlefield at a great time.
And now it's Leviathan's turn to go for the smoke rotation. They're going to smoke up with the Queen of Pain, Clockwork, and Winter Wyvern. These 3 heroes can kill pretty much anything that they find as long as there's no backup, and it looks like they're going to find the Doom. He walked past a Radiant Observer ward. He's right around the corner, and they're going to open up with the Winter's Curse and should be able to very easily follow up. They even bring in the relocate for good measure. He turns for the Doom, gets it off onto Francis, but I don't think there's any way that they actually catch up to this. Right now, the mobility coming up from the Slark isn't quite there. He's going to Remnant 4. Jenkins is now shackled down to the ground. Kakoni's going to work around these cogs. Leash connects, but Jenkins gets a hook. TP, can he actually get out of here alive? Jenkins will survive. What a player. And now everybody else looks like they'll get out to safety too with a blink and a tether.
Jeez, just really able to pull Houdini on that one. Jenkins just seeing the one angle to get out of there after all those lockdown mechanics connect upon them. That really just minimizes their losses. They trade Doom for Winter's Curse, which is a really good trade when you look at the numbers. I mean, the Doom cooldown right now is 100 seconds, and they're going to be able to maybe take the next engagement as a result. In the meantime, Chain Frost has finally cooled back down, but they've yet to use a Finger of Death. So overall, we're just seeing Leviathan, and that will give them that +1 on the count. Now we have Queen of Pain with the DD rune, not really wanting to follow through thanks to a couple of threatened TPs, and PQ will just continue to sacrifice the lane down bottom as he actually looks towards potentially an Aghanim Scepter. This is an interesting pickup, all things considered, but you have to think about formations. Tiny, Wisp are always going to be within tether range of each other, and that means the Chain Frost can just keep bouncing.
Yeah, the biggest thing you have to compare this to is whether Lich going for a mechanism would have been better or getting those early utility items for the team. I think this game, more than most, the Aghanim Scepter is definitely justified, and it's one of those item pickups that's really hard to judge at face value until you see them get, like, I don't know, 20 bounces in a fight or something stupid like that. Who knows what could happen? But right now, a really big thing for Leviathan is the fact that they're keeping up really good aggressive vision. Take a look at the enemy woods. They see everything, and they're going to feel very comfortable leaving Tiny to solo push this lane top since they know pretty much everything about the whereabouts on these heroes on the map, maybe with the exception being Lion.
So currently we do have a 3,000 net worth advantage for Leviathan, over 5k in experience in their favor. But let's talk about map control a little bit. Like, obviously tier 1 towers are pretty much all standing here, and then we're going to be looking at the wards that are very aggressive in the Dire jungle. Now Slurk is privy to some of these thanks to the Shadow Dance passive, but otherwise, what does that intel give
Jenkins in mid? He's going to get fingered or spiked down.
There's your first finger of the game.
Absolutely easy kill there. They got a lucky chains in the middle of a creep wave, and at that point there was nothing the clock could do.
So what do you think about the map control state? Obviously the BOT ability for Ember Spirit allows them to kind of jump lane to lane and keep pushing things out, but there's a lot of aggressive warding coming in from Leviathan.
I really would rather be in Leviathan's shoes as long as the clockwork doesn't get caught out in mid like that. They have so much global jump outside of just the relocate. Oh, down bottom rune spot. Francis is going to get caught out. Do they have the damage? He'll be able to blink out towards the left, although Remnant forward, he's chasing for it. Kikoni really wants this kill. Can he find another Remnant forward? He has the chains. Go and catch up Francis. That's a dead swap. But they'll lose the line on the back line. Still worth it. Now Slark is coming with the Shadow Blade.
Yeah, just great uses of cooldowns there. The steering chain's just coming up in time, but we do see now that Slark is going to be able to stay on target on flying Zebra, and Ember Spirit, despite being caught, is not in any real danger. But we do have Nusham bringing in some nice bottle heals. Unfortunately, it's not enough to keep the Tiny alive against so much direct pressure. So they're going to walk away with 4 heroes proud, and that is actually going to be giving them the kill advantage here, which is something that just draft to draft shouldn't happen. Leviathan need to get some momentum in this game, or they're going to have to switch in rat mode, which, IO Tiny is not bad at it, and Francis has a penchant for dragging out the games as long as possible through a bit of rat Dota, but all the same, I don't think that they expected to be on the back foot so early on against this Boreal draft.
Yeah, a lot of that comes down to Kikoni. He's 5-0-5. He almost has his Battle Fury on top of his bots. His farm is absolutely disgusting on this Ember Spirit, and Boreal are just reacting so very well to these rotations coming out from Leviathan. I think Leviathan have the right plan in mind. They're going for really nice aggressive ward vision. Their control on the map is good when it comes to keeping these lanes pushed out, but the response from Boreal is really where they're showing their prowess, and now the Slark is looking to go super aggressive with that Shadow Blade, although right now he doesn't have a lot of mana, so we'll be forced to back out, but Boreal are getting the tools that they need to seize map control and to seize control of this map as a whole.
Yep, so Aghanim's going to come out for the Doom here, and I would say about 600 gold. You can kind of count the Midas now that's off cooldown. So, yeah, he's going to be getting that very, very shortly, and that's going to be enabling him to really connect with his spells. Who would you say is a higher Doom target priority, the Queen of Pain or the Tiny?
Depends on if the Queen of Pain's committed her Sonic Wave or not. If she has, probably throw it on the Tiny, but, mid lane, Remnant away, Ember Spirit's going to be just fine. Yeah, it really depends. If Francis hasn't been able to commit his kit yet, and that's going to include an Orchid in just a second, taking that off the table is going to be very important for Boreal. So I'll err on the side of the Queen of Pain, but if Francis is already committed and you can kill her through other methods, then you can shift your focus.
Now's a pretty good time to mention the one aspect of the Wisp that really makes him a soft counter to Doom is the defensive relocate. Similar to Chen, if a target gets doomed, he has an ability that just pulls them out of the fight completely, and so you can essentially wait out for the Doom target, pop the relocate to a safe place near the fight, and just tether them, relocate them out, and that'll kind of reset it so that it's not an automatic kill for Doom, and you'll be able to re-engage, albeit about a dozen seconds later.
This is a very precious time for Leviathan. They have a fresh Orchid flying out to the Queen of Pain. This gank is going to tell a lot about the future state of the game. A Blink Orchid could catch up this Ember Spirit completely off guard, and if they could get that kill, that's great for them. But it looks like the Ember Spirit's defensively positioned enough, and they're going to change targets towards the Slark. This, in theory, is a 5-man rotation since they do have the relocate in from the Tiny. Let's see how it opens up.
Good connection with the hook shot. They will get the Orchid as well, so with a little bit of dust on that Shadow Blade, they will be able to lock him down with no Shadow Dance applied. Pizza Dad does have the finger, but doesn't want to drop it on a Clockwork. Maybe as a last resort, since they won't be able to pick up any more kills, that is going to be an option, but Coney wants more. He will once again connect with a long-range Searing Chains, and that should be enough to run Flying Zebra down despite the Cold Embrace. So, in the end, yeah, not exactly how you want to be running your Finger of Death. That's probably their longest cooldown they have right now, but all the same, it was the only kill they were going to find at that distance.
Yeah, across the board, that's a pretty even golden experience exchange, but based on who dies and who's killed, I'd favor Leviathan ever so slightly. That Slark really wants to stay on this map and really wants to be a presence. With him off of the map, the Io and the Tiny are going to feel a lot more comfortable in this space. Make some space for both Shibby and Nusham. The biggest issue for them, however, is the fact that Boreal are just out farming them, and I haven't really seen anything that they've done. Even though they've been getting these successful rotations, it's always in a trade, and even in a vacuum, they're pretty close. And then when you factor in the Midas and the Devourer and the Ember Spirit farming away, it really starts to look like Boreal is starting to get ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that Doom is kind of Mr. Bags. With the Midas, the Devourer, he's always going to be pulling forward in net worth, but the fact that he's an offlaner that is outpacing both the enemy mid and safe lane really sets a negative tone for Leviathan. Doom has an Aghanim Scepter, and he does. The most fair comparison, all things considered, I will say that Shibby is not too happy with his current progress this game. He needs more. He needs attack speed, maybe a BK game, considering all the magical damage flying about. He just needs more.
Yeah, and I think that's completely fair. Both of these teams are going to fall back towards their side of the map. That's really not what Leviathan want to be doing. Queen of Pain's going to blink through the creep wave, continue farming up towards top, but right now the map control towards either side is very, very balanced. And both of the teams are farming about the same amount of space.
This is actually really a very smart pickup from something I was going to talk about a little bit later, but essentially, generally speaking, when you look at a melee carry trying to fight up against a Tiny, the one biggest weakness is you have to have BKB on to hit him, or you're just going to get Craggy stunned over and over from the Craggy exterior. And the problem with that logic is every other hero on Leviathan's team doesn't care about BKB. You can Sonic Wave through it, you can Hookshot through it, Winter's Curse, etc. So they're happy for you to buy a BKB just for Craggy exterior. Slark finds another way to actually circumvent that. He's going to Silver Edge off the Craggy, and therefore he can still connect with good 4-5 seconds of hits without having to worry about that debuff.
For sure, it's really nice. And then you also have the additional break coming out from the Doom. There's a lot of ways that Boreal have to deal with Tiny's armor situation. When you take Craggy exterior away from the Tiny, his base armor of only 2 is going to be very easy for them to completely destroy. Even though right now their physical damage isn't super impressive, it will get there very quickly. As Ember Spirit almost has enough money for the small crit, and once he has Daedalus, Leviathan are just going to be, I don't know, ripped through. Absolutely. Tier 1 tower in mid going to be denied out by the Lion.
And I got to tell you, I wasn't entirely sold on the greed level of this draft from Boreal on the opener, but seeing how well the Ember Spirit has played it, seeing how well Kokoni has just masterfully executed in each and every single fight, they put themselves in a position where it almost seems like they can't lose. Like, they have to execute well and at the same level throughout the rest of the game, but I have some high expectations here. We're going to see Jenkins dodge out a forthcoming gank with the Cogs, and Kokoni doesn't connect Searing Chains. Probably like the only miss you'll see this game.
Yeah, it was mostly a blind one. Didn't really expect to catch anything, I suppose, but everything's going to fall back to normal. Boreal have been forced to rotate towards top lane. Now it's their turn to look for a push, with TPs down towards the bottom lane that they are privy to. Looks like they're going to be able to take this one out without any real contention coming out from the Leviathan side. And they're also going to make an attempt, at the very least, to pull off creep aggro down here, but with Ags, this tier 1 tower down in the bottom lane is as good as dead.
Doom is actually looking for an opportunity here. He's going to go for the Doom onto Francis, and it's going to be the BOT Ember play where he can just, he messed up the Remnants, and that's going to come up to almost nothing. In fact, it looks like the Doom might go down as well. They hookshot, they toss, and they are obliterating him while the Queen of Pain walks away pretty solid. She is being healed up by the Wisp. the overcharge, the tether, etc. They actually, I think, used that defense relocate to make sure that he was safe. The Aghanim's Doom still lasting a really long time because it does refresh while you're in close proximity to that Doom, but in the end, the Doom does not get the kill.
Look at Radiant Ancients right now, though. Even though they lose their Doom, they're getting a stack that was prepared for the Tiny. Now a Sonic Wave. They'll lose the Lion, too, but now Francis in a bit of trouble. Chain down to the ground. The burst damage is there. And they'll get the kill, but turn around.
Oh, so close to killing off the Ember Spirit, but it's not enough here. The Slark is just not doing the damage he needs to. Does Essence Shift on the Ember Spirit, taking a few of his stats, trading it from hero to hero, but Tiny's going to try to follow through on this and try to finish at least one of these 2 kill opportunities, and in fact they'll get neither, and they're just going to have to disengage from the enemy territory before they risk something like a massive Searing Chains Chain Frost. There are going to be a few Ancients left, a lot of the big ones in particular for Shibby, but it's still a lot more than the Ember Spirit expected to get out of that situation.
Yeah, the Queen of Pain coming into that fight does secure those big creeps for the Tiny, but is that worth it? It is a really hard call to make, and really difficult to actually evaluate that situation. I think anything that forces Leviathan to react is good for Boreal, even if it is going to cost them a support kill here or there.
I actually think it is worth it, because although the Queen of Pain death does mean a lot, I think Tiny just really needs items. So getting those Ancients really puts him to his next item as quickly as possible, and he can start looking for maybe like a plate mail into AC, or if he needs to, just go for the BKB.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's going to have to make that decision very shortly. And it's a hard one to make for Shibby. He needs the armor and the magic community alike inside these fights. Slark is going to continue playing very aggressively. I think they spot him out with the flare over the top with the sentry vision. So maybe Bakumoto has been spotted, but we'll just have to wait and see. He's going to go back off and farm inside the woods as Boreal look to take out this tier 1 tower down towards bottom lane. I don't think this is really defendable by Leviathan, or it's not worth the risk, rather, although they probably could pull it through.
Yeah, I don't think there's much value in it at this point. There's so much invasion that's happening in that area anyways. The tower proxy doesn't really allow them much, and they're mostly relying on the relocate to get in it's anyways, so better just to find that farm and find those opportunities to push forward rather than continuing to look back over their shoulder. We're going to see next the Slark move in for the Aya Scotty. That should be coming up in about 2,100 gold. And Bakemono at that point should be able to pretty much control the Tiny in every fight. The attack speed slow as well as the movement slow is really going to limit his potential to contribute to the fight.
Ember Spirit, instead of going for Daedalus, is instead going to pick up a Manta style for himself. This is going to mean that he's almost 100% safe inside these fights. They'll need Avalanche and Winter's Curse with a lot of damage on top of that in order to kill him off. And Kikoni has more than enough cover fire, I feel, to where the only thing that he really has to worry about is the Orchid from the Quap. And Manta style fixes that issue.
Is under attack.
Yeah, so, yeah, no Orchid to worry about. What does Quap do next to try to secure some kill potential? I mean, is it just the Aghanim Scepter we see a lot of, or is there an alternative build? Maybe you look for the Hex, maybe a Lincoln Spear to deal with the Doom a little bit more effectively. Obviously, Francis has plenty of options, but do you have an opinion?
Personally, this game, I think Lincoln Sphere might be a little bit better for Francis. It'll let them put that on the Tiny and feel a lot more comfortable pushing for objectives, although it's not going to give the Queen of Pain nearly as much killing potential. So you can still throw the Orchid on somebody like the Lion or the Lich. Taking away that control or the Chain Frost from those fights is still very impactful, even though it's not the Ember Spirit that's absolutely dishing. So I think the more defensive choice would probably be my favorite, but there are so many different good options, and all of them have their pluses and cons. It really just depends on how Francis wants to play it, and I don't think we can knock any of them in particular.
Yeah, there's so much they need to get done this game, and any one item will put them a step in that direction, but be on the team as a whole to really bring it back. I think a good slow play with a good Winter's Curse is really what they need to find in the nearest possible interval. And I actually think the Orchid priority goes to the Lich up now, because like the Slark, yeah, if you silence him you might be able to kill him without getting shot at, but it's unlikely. Whereas if you silence PQ, most likely will prevent the Chain Frost for the fight. And with this Aghanim Scepter that just got picked up, that's actually a really big deal. You're either going to have a perfect split where you go for like the Glimmer Cape or the Force Staff away and break the Chain Frost early, or you're going to have to be dealing with that throughout the entire fight. It's a major distraction as well as a potentially major source of damage, and just silencing and killing the Lich is definitely the easiest answer.
Ancient Stacks again going to be contested by Boreal. They're going to get all the small ones and one of the large creeps, but then decide that it's probably the best call to back off. Although now Kikoni, he really wants it. The Io Tanya have shown themselves up towards the top lane, so he'll feel a little bit more comfortable to take out that Thunder Hide and that Black Dragon, and he will succeed.
Yeah, I don't think it's too dangerous to do that, but I would usually expect somebody to put a remnant back for that. He's got all 3 remnants stored up, so he's very confident in position there that he wouldn't even need to relocate John. They're still going to go for this top tower, and with the Ags, that shouldn't take too long. We'll see how Boreal reacts if they're actually going to... Not at all, and this means Nusham and Chibi could just go to the top tier 3 if they want, but seeing TP's forthcoming and Jeppin blinking into the trees, I don't think that Leviathan know about this, but maybe they see the Scorched Earth effect. We're just going to look at Pizza Dad, who is going to be the main target, being focused down by multiple spells, and creating an opportunity to, again, push towards that tier 3, push towards those racks. In the meantime, we'll see Boreal look for Roshan. The Radiant have an okay ward in this area, but they definitely don't know for a fact that this is happening. So they have to be
until the flare.
Be uncertain. There's a rocket flare, so now they know, and they're immediately going to go for the tier 3. They use Cliff on the tier 2, so although the Doom will come out, they will be able to force some damage onto this tier 3, and Roshan has not fallen. They're actually walking away from this, at least for the moment.
Yeah, nobody's going to take any map objectives, but maybe most importantly here is the Doom's on cooldown for 90 seconds. So Leviathan have a minute and a half where they have a window where they want to fight and might be able to find a really crucial engagement. That was such a risky move coming out from Boreal to go for Roshan. No minus armor, at least not that I know of, on their heroes. So I mean that it's not close to the fastest Roche.
Yeah, they're a really bad Roche. Ice armor is probably their best utility against it.
For sure.
So, in this position, you have to really just examine what happens in Tiny Wisp games when you try to go for Roshan, and how much you're really putting on the table there whenever you try to go for such a key objective. If you can do it with your lane pushed out like it is right now, with the creepways meeting in the top left, great. But if you're doing it while the Tiny is actually physically on the top lane, or the creepway is anywhere near the racks, then you're in some trouble. We do see an amazing burst combo, though, coming out on the Queen of Pain, and that might be enough to secure Roshan. I mean, you don't have to worry about the Sonic Wave in the pit. All you have to do is get eyes on the Wyvern, and honestly, we see from our caster point of view that Flying Zebra's no shape to fight.
Kikoni took an avalanche toss in mid, but his flame guard was up and it hardly bothers him at all. Leviathan really do need this Queen of Pain to engage, and she's gone for the BKB. Although she's not able to get off the BKB inside that last skirmish, now Roshan is open. The top lane, although it looks like it's going to be cut by Shibi, is not pushing in fast enough for them to be able to contest it. Although they do know the Clockwork Flare is there, they have a relocate, they could get into this pit, but is it fast enough? I think 20 seconds plus the TP time, the Queen of Pain can't get here nearly fast enough.
Now is not the time for Leviathan to panic. The second they do that, they're going to lose control of the game. They will let Aegis go to Boreal, and they'll try to manage the loss as a result. They're going to push up top, like I said before, and this is where Leviathan have really shown their strengths in the past month, I would say. I guess a lot of Leviathan games where it looks like, okay, the enemy has an Aegis, they have a 5v5 advantage, they have hero advantage, they have farm advantage, they're going to look to push objectives, and Leviathan are going to have to take a very disadvantageous fight. And the second I think that is when Leviathan starts ratting hard, and they start pushing out side lanes like you wouldn't believe, and make it impossible for the opposing team to really commit to those objectives.
For sure. Well, Leviathan are keeping up the lane pressure up towards top, whereas Boreal are taking over the enemy woods down towards the bottom lane. Things have slowed down a bit, but we now have that Doom cooldown available for Boreal, and maybe they want to start picking a fight. Jeffins is looking for the angle up towards top, although the Tiny's back in the trees, and the IO is also looking for the TP out, and will be able to stick the landing. Although that was close, I think they caught eyes on him, if only for a split second.
Yep, so just going to see that all spread out. Everybody's kind of going across the map to different locations, and it looks like we're going to be seeing most of the jungle controlled by the Boreal here on both fronts. They will not be able to catch up with Francis. Honestly, the best they could do is actually just catch a BKB charge. That 10-second charge being pretty valuable, but all the same not finding any kill potential.
Clockwork, as far as his item progression is concerned, has his 4-step blade mail, and at this point Clockwork can go for pretty much anything, but also it's worth noting that Jenkins is controlling a gem that he purchased. This is going to delay his Aghanim, sure, but right now the name of the game for Leviathan is make sure that Boreal don't know where you are. They need to keep up the pressure, because right now it's getting close to critical mass, where Boreal are just getting way too many items. You have a double damage Ember Spirit that's going to have his full data list flying out in the courier. Even the supports are getting what they need. We almost have the blink up for the Lion, which is an initiation tool. It's going to be very difficult for Leviathan to deal with, and in general, Boreal are starting to run away with it. This game is going to a pretty great spot for Boreal. Leviathan, it's going to be hard for them to pull this back in from a 14,000 net worth advantage and more than 20,000.
They are looking at Kokoni, though, and bringing in 3 ultimates. They're definitely going to be able to bring him down. Jenkins even throws the hook shot just for good measure. They do not want to let that Ember Spirit go, and that's going to be a very valuable pickup, as it is going to delay 75 seconds here of that Aegis Immortal. It's going to be only about a minute left for Boreal to work with, and that's not going to be enough. They're not going to be able to push it in that last minute unless they really find that that is their prerogative, and they force the issue in a very swift fashion with the BOTs.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate pickup for them. It's going to mean that although they are very strong, in fighting against the enemy team, forcing that issue is going to be almost impossible. And the words really just aren't on the map for the Dire team because of his gem on Jenkins. As long as the Clockwork can keep himself alive, it's going to be very hard for Boreal to make any aggressive moves. That said, I still think the passive game favors Boreal, so it's not terrible. They're not breaching high ground now, but it's also worth noting that Boreal's heroes aren't the best at going for that high ground siege.
So Shibby, he's got his AC online now, looking at the Crystallis, and still has a surplus gold for buyback. So yeah, it's actually going to be really nice for Shibby as he's able to just really do swift physical damage. That's one thing that he needs this game. If he could just kind of pummel the Ember Spirit, maybe get a lucky crit or 2 in a fight, then it can completely negate the advantage that Boreal have. If they can, obviously it comes down to the Ember Spirit being in that position to be killed off, but we've seen Winter's Curse accomplish that, and I'm assuming Shibby will look for other tools of initiation than the Glimmer Cape, maybe a Blink Dagger.
And that would help them out quite a lot. Right now, Boreal are grouped up inside their own woods. They're playing very defensively to be able to react if they jump on Kokoni again, which is fairly likely. He'll drop down to defensive remnant, but he has a Slark here too. Looks like finally Boreal are going to commit fully to a tier 2 tower push.
Yeah, I mean, they do have that small window, like I was talking about, with the Aegis here, as long as Kokoni BOT'd forward. And in the meantime, of course, the Tiny Wisp are going to be kind of counter-pressuring. They are making sure that if Boreal even think about touching the high ground, it's going to cost them a rack, thanks to the Tiny Wisp. So, right now, Kokoni is still right up there, but I definitely don't think that they're going to be able to do much more with this position. In the meantime, Pizza Dad does get the jump onto Queen of Pain. 2 stuns will come out. Is it enough to get the Doom off? Yes, but there is a BKB on Francis. The pure damage, though. The Aghanim Scepter will keep this buff on him the entire time, and he will be going down. In the meantime, though, the Fortification is not enough to hold the tier 3. The Chain Frost will bounce to the Creep Wave, and now back to the Wisp Tiny, who have to Delta Split. But they keep the Tether alive. That's just enough leash range. They're able to break the Chain Frost and at least get the Tiny out, it looks like. Yeah, or Shibby, you don't want to be part of that action. But in the meantime, Winter Wyvern goes down to the mid as they try to pursue on the Ember. Jenkins also gets caught out and feeds him a True Sight away. I really don't know what they thought they were going to accomplish there, trying to combo up on this Ember, unless they were trying to communicate a relocate to mid. If the Tiny Wisp were trying to relocate mid, and inevitably sacrificing the Wisp, then they definitely could have gone for like a 4v1, 4v2 play. But now it's Shibby on the high ground that is getting focused down. He does get a Craggy on the Ember, but now it's going to be the Slark right on top of him with the Silver Edge. Finally a Craggy comes out, but he still will be killed off. Has buyback available, might have to use it, as their racks are now being directly pressured, and it's going to be 70 seconds without the big rock otherwise. So we're going to see actually a big dive here from Bakemono without the ultimate, but right now they're looking strong to take a whole lane of racks.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's much Leviathan can do about this unless they buy back on the Tiny. They're going to buy back in the clock, and that in and of itself is enough to back off Boreal. They don't want to get too cocky here, although the Ember Spirit's going to join the fray, and if they chase for kills, maybe, just maybe, they can turn this one around and go for high ground. If they can kill off the clock, that's pretty much a death sentence. Bakemono is going to get the Splinter Blast. They see him. Winter's Curse caught out. The Slark is on the front lines, but the damage isn't quite there. Doom onto the back lines. Queen of Pain is going to be pulled out of this fight almost indefinitely, and it looks like Boreal going to look for round 2. Avalanche connects on the Kokoni. Toss 2, but it hardly does enough damage, and just like that, everything's going to reset.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that they actually had to spend the buyback on the Tiny without actually forcing the fight. What they wanted to do was actually connect with some hookshot cogs and make sure that if the Tiny buys back, they can win a fight, get a couple of kills out of it. The actual result is that instead they use 3 buybacks, Queen of Pain, Clockwork, and Tiny, and they don't actually get any return kills. So Boreal, even without taking the racks, are very happy about how that played out.
Yeah, a huge amount of advantage. Swing back into Boreal's favor after that engagement. Not only is that really bad for their gold income now, but it's going to stop their gold growth as the game progresses. They just don't have very much space on this map to feel comfortable. And those wards are going to start flying back in Boreal's favor since they do control the gem, although I'm not sure who's holding it right now. If you take a look at their inventories, it's PQ, but then again, Jenkins also has a new one.
Francis doing some attempted rat plays. They won't be able to catch sight of him from their current perspective, and that means he will be able to cut the creep wave as they pressure top. Won't be enough to save the tier 2, obviously, if Boreal set their sights on it, but for now he's sticking to the trees, and it's very possible that he'll be able to disrupt their overall intentions, and he'll go for the next wave here. Blinking in, though, they connect with the pounce on a Jenkins. Glimmer Cape is barely enough to keep him alive for now. He has the hookshot away, but the Ember Spirit Sleight of Fist cleans it up. They'll get their gem back at least, but all the same, I'm not sure if Francis has enough to really make this work. They're still going to lose the top tier 2, and just with BOT play, the Ember Spirit's able to defend mid from the IO Tiny, and he's going to be able to remnant right back up top.
This creep wave is all they're going to get. Queen of Pain has cut 2 creep waves successfully. Francis is going to mean that they have to commit now, and it looks like they're not going to be able to fully go for the barracks here. They'll be able to repel the Queen of Pain, however, and still get pretty massive advantages, but Tiny with the Daedalus gonna bump into Kokoni. He does get the chains down onto him, and now Kokoni's going to start fighting this one. Glimmer Cape and Tiny's going to juke towards the north, and will be relocated out to safety.
Yeah, they don't know exactly where the gem is located, PQ, moving that direction, but obviously they don't want to risk Tiny just being revealed and killed off, so they go for the relocate back, sacrifice Nusham to the Wolves, and at this point, Boreal, they're looking at a guaranteed 5v4 if they look to breach high ground. They just need a creep wave to get there. Down bottom, Francis is actually going to get caught out, does have the blink coming up, and will be to use it against that Slark. No lucky bashes.
Everybody's going to go home their merry way, but Leviathan, even though this was probably one of their lowest priority targets, or lowest priority heroes inside these engagements, it's still going to be a very hard sell to defend this 4 versus 5. The melee barracks are under heavy siege. They'll throw an avalanche, but it doesn't even reach, and Backmoto is going to continue working on this melee Rax. I don't think they're going to be able to pull him off in time. This is 1 Rax going in favor of Boreal.
Absolutely, it's just the buybacks deficit that's really allowing them to do this, and with almost no risk. The fact is, with so many buybacks, in fact, all 5 buybacks being down right now, there's just nothing that Leviathan could really bring to the full fight. They've got to continue ratting, they've got to continue to put split pressure out, and for that they need creep waves to be moving the other way.
Absolutely. Well, lucky enough for Leviathan, the Roshan respawn time is going to be a pretty darn long one, but still you have a Abyssal Blade on this Slark. Doom is super farmed, sitting on almost 5,000 gold inside the bank. Ember Spirit has his second Daedalus up and running, and Leviathan just aren't getting the gold income on the appropriate heroes in order to take these engagements. They have a Tiny that's pretty farmed, but Queen of Pain is really just way too far behind. Her effective items, it's just the Orchid and the BKB, and we've seen time and time again that for Francis, that's just not enough. For all intents and purposes, he's a walking Sonic Wave.
Yeah. So looking at future items for the Tiny, how he can progress, I think he absolutely needs a BKB now. Not just the magical damage, but that Silver Edge is causing him some issues in terms of staying alive, and he needs to be able to break that with the BKB. Still would then have to worry about the Doom, but somebody's going to get doomed. That's the bottom line. So I would say picking up a BKB, BOT's Moonshard is going to be his late game progression, and then he'll have to consider the value of that Blink Dagger if he needs to constantly be carrying it, or maybe he can just hold it in the stash.
I'll offer an alternative for Shivy. Maybe the only win condition here for Leviathan is for them being able to go for a base trade. And then you look at items like Mantis Style that could also deal with the Silver Edge and could also be reasonable, or just go straight for Moonshard, Mask of Madness, and try your best to trade. There's no clear option here for Shivy, although if he wants to take the fights, BKB is definitely the way to go.
Exactly. So it just comes down to really what kind of engagement, if he ever wants to go toe-to-toe with Slark, etc. The problem with that idea is now Slark has an Abyssal Blade, and he just gets to stack on all these debuffs, all these things that inhibit the Tiny from accomplishing what he wants. So, yeah, it might actually be the best route to pretty much pretend there aren't heroes in this game and just focus on towers, and that would definitely be the attack speed build more than anything else.
Roshan's up, and now that's going to be the next move for Boreal. This time around, they have more than enough damage to take this out quickly, although Flares will scout this out, and that might give them a moment of hesitance. Leviathan aren't in immediate position to contest this. They'll leave the Ember Spirit and the Slark in the pit. It's not the fastest Rosh ever, but it's fast enough, it seems.
Yep, and just checking out buybacks for the next 5-minute interval here. We have most of them coming off cooldown within the next minute and a half, but gold is still going to be an issue for a lot of these heroes.
Jenkins hook shot into the pit. He's going to look for the seal. Can he get the Aegis? He's stunned.
Can't.
He's going to get Winter's Curse down on the ground. Who's going to pick it up? Sonic Wave over the top. Boreal are getting absolutely demolished.
Got denied by Jenkins in the pit. Now Doom comes out onto Francis while Doom is going to be heading for the hills. Speaking of, Slurk tries to get there, but gets pulled back in by the terrain, jumps on a lava flow, and it just reels him right back in. Hog knockback and pounce, not enough to allow him to disengage from the pit. Those are heavy losses there, and creating an opportunity for Leviathan to start taking from Jenkins, getting the hook shot at a stun, and then following it up with an Aegis denial really ensued chaos, and with the Blink Winter's Curse, they were really able to take that fight.
Yeah, very well. Great play coming out from Jenkins. I didn't even see him get the deny off in the middle of all of the particle effects inside that pit, but that was a huge play, and it's going to give Leviathan a new lease on life, and it's going to propel them towards those next major items. This is by no means an easy game. Whenever you look at an Aghanim's Doom in a late game situation, especially when he's backed up by Ember's Spirit Slark, this is absolutely terrifying to play into. It still feels like Leviathan have a chance, and that's at the very least something. If they can pull back this disadvantage when it comes to gold, that would be absolutely miraculous. And I think the only way they can do that is if Tiny's trading bases, but we've already seen the lack of tower damage and even Roshan damage coming out from Boreal.
Interesting position from Jeppins. He's kind of heading on the trees again, this time of his own volition, and then he's just going to BOT back. So I'm guessing he just wants to be in a safe place where he can move about on the map anywhere he needs to be, and he's also spending some time thinking about his item pickup. It's going to be the Refresher Orb coming out for him, and this is pretty much your quintessential late-game Doom item. Like, very few builds, 6-slotted Doom involve anything but a Refresher Orb, and we're going to see Refresher Aghanims come into play here and create some real potential. Yeah, honestly, it's not too much of an absolute statement, although it is very absolute, to say that if there's not a Liquid Sphere on Leviathan within the next 5 minutes, they can't win. I mean, the way that you could possibly win the game without Liquid Sphere is actually killing off the Doom without him getting both Dooms off, and that's really difficult when he's already got 2,500 HP.
Yeah, and also on top of that, 17 seconds worth of BKB if he uses the refresher and times that perfectly. Sure. Although that's a little bit of a stretch to say he's going to get all of that match community inside the fight. It's going to be really hard for Leviathan to burst him. And that would also be in a situation where he's completely alone. He has so many scary heroes behind him, and those scary heroes are going to smoke up, and they're looking for blood with this refresher.
So, we're going to see that smoke led by the Lions, so Blink Warstaff is going to be the attempted initiation, but they also need sight. An Observer Ward will give some intel, but not seeing any heroes just yet. And, yeah, it's still okay. We're pushing forward, and I think the Ember Spirit can find a nice flanking opportunity. They can kind of go into this southern part of the top lane if they want, but they're a little bit worried about clumping up the Winter's Curse in the process. So they'll clear out an illusion here, but a little bit of a fail smoke, still having an advantage as they look to push in. The creep wave is pressured in mid, but we'll check out top and see Shibby right alongside a happy little Radiant creep wave. This definitely can force some pressure on Boreal, though they don't have the Glyph of Fortification available just yet.
And the backdoor protection is going to be disabled, and they are going to need to pull out very soon. But right now, Tiny does not have the intel required for him to go for that base trade play. The entire map, at least the entire map that has heroes on it, is dark. They have 2 wards around the top of the Radiant River, but not near enough to allow the Tiny go for that base trade play. So he's going to be forced to TP all the way back to base, expecting the rotation that is coming. So
BKB does come out for the Tiny here, just going to go for the fighting build. This is really showing that he wants to actually try to kill off Boreal's heroes rather than just going for the Rat and the base race play. So Shibby, he'll do his best here, but that Refresher, I would say, is a counter to the BKB. Doom is going to be able to now doom both the Queen of Pain and the Tiny, or maybe even dooming the same hero twice if they live through relocate and other means. So what that means to me is that Tiny has to be very careful how he engages the next fight, because that Doom is looking monstrous right now.
For sure. And also a Blink Abyssal Blade from the Slark is something that we haven't seen a lot this game, but could also completely catch Leviathan with their pants down. If they're out of position, it's only a blink away from their lost team fight. And right now, they're going to look for the tier 3 tower.
Queen of Pain, Francis going to be trying to split push it. He's got a TP back very short though, and actually we're going to see already Bakemono inside the base. 2 Ghost Scepters come out, or Glimmer Capes. He cannot stand his targets, and he'll go right back on the racks. He did just expend the Shadow Dance, so he's probably just going to wait out that cooldown. They don't have enough impetus to otherwise proceed. They're going to go ahead, use the Ember BOTs to split push the other lanes, make sure bottom lane is taken under control, and in about 30 seconds they can go on the tier 3 once more.
Yeah, Ember Spirit will be able to join the fray again, but maybe even with a completed item. This Ember Spirit has a Mithril Hammer in his inventory, probable BKB coming out from him. If they have BKB on Kokoni, pushing high ground is a lot easier for their team, as they won't have to worry about pretty much anything. The Leviathan are coming out, with the exception being like the hookshot and the Winter's Curse, but that in and of itself is probably not enough to kill off the Ember Spirit in particular. He just has a little too much HP, unless you get lucky crits from the Tiny, which is also another something to keep in mind. If Tiny gets high rolls, those big branch hits really do a number.
Francis already going to get doomed up, and Bakemono blinks into the tree line here. It's going to be Nushin to relocate him out of it. That's going to expend the first doom, while Shibi has to wait out the second one. They Winter's Curse to take out half of Ember's HP and delay it, and they have actually effectively waited out both dooms without a casualty. Francis and Shibi going to be going back into the fight in about 5 seconds, and they will look to take this. They delayed it with the Winter's Curse and the Glyph, and now they catch out Jeppins inside the cogs. They're going in. They're hammering away. Shibi getting some crits out, and if they can, just 4-step away from the Chain Frost, they'll break that effect too. Despite all these Aghadam's ultis, they're winning this fight, but Bakemono will try to go on Nusham, who gets the Ghost Scepter Glimmer Cape away. Now we're looking at Pizza Dead, who's silenced and can't finger, and might just be going down in spite of the Orchid. We're going to see the BKB pop from the Ember Spirit, freshly picked up. There is going to be a Finger of Death coming out, killing off the Clockwork, while Bakemono cleans up the back lines, and Shibi is now isolated and in trouble. Almost kills the Slark! He'll die to the Splinter Blast of all things. Dies with a triple kill, buying back, considering a BOT pickup to just get right back to the front line, and here he goes. Oh my gosh, what a team fight from both sides.
Absolutely. Leviathan making sure that Doom were unsuccessful was the first step, and then the second step was defending it. Unfortunately for them, right now it's looking like that second step is not working out for them, because they only get an even 5, and now the Blink Hex with Tiny's coming in.
They got the combo here onto Bakemono. They'll crit again! Oh my gosh, they've just forced the dieback on the Slark. Could this actually be the comeback?
It's definitely the start of it. They hold their side lane barracks on top of it all for 2 minutes. Not having to deal with that Slark is a major victory for their team, and that was just Slark getting cocky. He had the Shadow Dance, he had the Pact, and he just didn't expect that Queen of Pain would be able to find that Blink, but the range on a Blink Hex initiation is absurd, and unfortunately the reaction time for that, or the reaction time required, is absolutely ungodly. He's going to get a chains onto Shibi in mid. Kokoni will just remnant out of there, but just like that, Winter Wyvern has a refresher orb.
That's the comeback goal, man. Just comeback goal to work. Wyvern got the last hit there on the Slark. So that's Wyvern getting 1,300 gold from that one kill through the killing streak end. And yeah, that's big ticket item. Refresher Orb is now online, and while Double Doom seemed to be the game breaker, now we might see that same possibility in the hands of the Radiant Flying Zebra with that double Winter's Curse.
For sure, Tiny right now is running with no buyback, but this is a window that Leviathan can look to hit hard, and they're going to need to. Tier 2 tower in mid is going to be like two-shotted by the Tiny. Nothing that they can do to stop that, but they need at least one set of barracks taken away from the enemy side, ideally two.
The Chain Frost will kill off the creep wave for sure, but I still think they're going to look to base race this. There's nobody cutting the creep wave in mid, and the Slark is definitely down for 40 seconds. They know it. Ember Spirit will do what he can, but Ember Spirit doesn't fight buildings, and Jeffins gets crit down. He'll have to buy back instantly here, and they're already losing the racks. They have one Glyph to rule them all. They do get an amazing crit slight on the Wisp, but he just buys right back. Now we're going to see the Tiny go get doomed and taking a lot of damage on the front line from that level death, but he still is able to kill off the Doom, even with his crit disabled. PQ going to die to the Cogs, and Jenkins beautying into this fight is actually putting them in a winning position. Now the relocate, it doesn't look like it's there to put them back in the fight. No, they bailed out the Doom, pulled the Tiny out, extracted him, and forced another buyback. That's going to be the Ember Spirit. Kokoni is back in, looking to clean up the Clockwork at least. Flying Zebra will blink out, and that leaves Jenkins to most likely be the one that gets caught. Bakemono wants both, but they might be walking into trouble if they run into this Tiny. No, Tiny disengages. It's just going to be the gem on the deck. Balls.
Can everybody else get out alive? We have a Blink tooling down on the line. It looks like most of them are fine. Winter Wyvern going to Glimmer Cape. Don't even breathe. They're going to chase up the high ground. They want to catch this Tiny. If they kill off the Tiny, it's probably just GG in favor of Boreal. Shippy's going to show to the creep wave, and Lion is getting close to range. She has 4-step and Blink in 3 seconds, but actually can't get it. So fair enough. Wouldn't have had the backup. They're going to decide instead to go for the more conservative play. And when you get to this late game situation, that's probably the right play. This is going to be Aegis and Cheese, presumably going the way of Boreal's. Leviathan don't have a single Winter's Curse.
Incredible. Just every single fight is action-packed, and both teams really just pushing the limits on this. Amazing. I was talking about the Liquid Sphere as if it was an absolutist thing that they needed it to deal with the Dooms, but Nusham is playing like a champ on this Wisp, relocating and allowing his teammates to disengage and resetting fights so beautifully. Really just making it difficult for Boreal to connect on one particular hero. They get some good crits out, the same as the Tiny, but it's only killing off the supports, and the cores are still making some major waves in these fights. We'll still see the push coming in, though. The Aegis did go to the Ember Spirit Kokoni, and the cheese is in the hands of Bakemono, with Leviathan looking for a miracle hold.
Yeah, right now the Mantis Cell from the Ember Spirit's on the courier. That's what he drops in order to put the Aegis on his own person, and this is a very tense situation. The buyback situation for both of these teams is grim. In fact, the Radiant side are the only ones with buybacks. Queen of Pain, Clockwork, Winter Wyvern, the only ones that can get back into the game. The Winter Wyvern probably most important, although there's still 60 seconds until you have that refresher. This is gonna be hard. I think Boreal found themselves a really big window, and maybe they just throw the first Doom on the IO to make sure that relocate save can't come out to play. So Nusham needs to make sure that he's super far back and nowhere close.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, but the actual range of tether is absurd. And
it
at
really
that
is.
point, Nusham should be practically in the fountain to avoid any possibility there. But definitely, you're absolutely right. If that is an option, the Doom should look for, because that would probably guarantee that one core will die to Doom alone. Oh my gosh, this is just insane. Now 15,000 net worth is the only advantage Boreal has, and the experience is even closer to the 0 mark. We're going to see the unpause come through, and we're right back where Boreal are in the driver's seat for this game, looking to find their opening without being subject to heavy Winter's Curse. 50 seconds on the refresher orb cooldown of the Winter Wyvern. The Dooms is now.
Although it looks like Boreal are a little bit spread out right now, they have Boots of Travel on the Doom, Ember, and Slark. So pretty much the only heroes that really need to be in position for them to go for this are the supports if they can keep these lanes pushed out. But right now, looks like the call for Boreal is to back off and look for a smoke rotation and look for that pickoff. Maybe they'll catch somebody out of position, but right now, Leviathan, they have to play so scared. There could be Silver Edge Slarks right around the corner. They have to play sentries on their high ground. And in general, they're staying behind their fountain. Under normal circumstances, this looks really goofy, but this is where they have to stay in order to be safe.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to hit on real quick that I'm kind of surprised at, I just looked at Jeppin's creep. He has devoured a Cedar, so he has the Shockwave and the Health Regen Aura. Kind of the one creep you wouldn't expect to have at this stage. I'm not sure if when you click Shockwave on a target that it breaks Lincolns or not. I actually haven't tried that. But no matter the case, it's definitely unorthodox. Either way,
and there's no Lincolns on the enemy side, so
yeah, exactly.
Not a big deal.
That's just in theory, not in practice here. But yeah, they're still going to be putting the Slark on the front line. He's got the cheese. Oh, Ember actually has the Aegis, so I guess he's the better pick. Though he can't crit buildings, and he only for like 3 to 400.
Only 3 to 400. It's still enough to take out the range barracks, and right now they do have to play scared, but there could be an opportunity for Leviathan, and maybe that's Shankins to pull the trigger. He's going to get crit, and just like that, no, stay away from my racks, and it looks like it is going to be Ember Spirits, unless they do something about it. Now they are going to go into it.
Oh, he's going to lose the Aegis, that's for sure. Jeppins, though, gets Winter's Curse in mid-animation for the Doom, but can they burst him down? Yes, they can! Right before he gets the Dooms off, and he cannot buy back. They're going to get the Orchid out on the Lion, so he won't follow through with any more disables. They kill off the Lich, they chase down Pizza Dad, and now they are going to look for any offensive play they can take. Relocating bottom seems probable, but Bakemono beats him to the punch. They're trying to clear up the creep wave and make sure that tower cannot fall. They have to buy time now for the Doom to get back up. He still has 2 Dooms, he just has to be alive to cast them. And that was an incredible Winter's Curse coming in from Flying Zebra.
Leviathan supports are really the biggest reason why they're staying in this game. Their KDs are by no means flashy or anything, but that Winter's Curse was so clutch. Right now there's a double damage rune down towards the bottom rune spot that I think Dire know of, and Leviathan would love to have it, but they're just going to go for top barracks. Boreal are losing momentum. You have no buyback available for the Doom. This would be a miraculous comeback if Leviathan could actually pull this one off. The melee barracks is going to be shot down. Just a couple more swipes of Tiny's tree. And now they're going to hex over onto Kokoni. Pizza Dad will bail him out. The silence follow-up isn't going to be enough, but now the fight might break out. They throw in the Slark away back towards his allies. He jumps in, goes for Shivy, pops his ultimate, but he might need to get out here. BKB popped by Francis. He's going to be Abyssal Blade down on the ground, but will still be able to blink out. Not Bash lucky enough for the Slark.
There's no bashes coming for the Slark. I don't know what's gone wrong with his prayers to RNG, but that is just not happening. He is not able to lock down anybody long enough, and it's just going to be the top rack's completely gone with still no buybacks as a fallback for Boreal.
Even
there
if
it is. I saw that gold value accumulated in the Ember. He had like 8,000 banked. And what are we looking at here? And in fact, it's not going to be anything conservative. It's going to be Kokoni bringing in the Divine Rapier and making sure that his presence is known.
But still, take a look at the net worth and experience graphs. That's the story of this game. What once was more than a 25,000 advantage in favor of Boreal is now almost zeroed out. In fact, Leviathan have an experience advantage. Although this is going to mean less and less as the game progresses, and I think we're pretty much at that point where gold is meaningless as all of these heroes have so much of it. It really is showing that Leviathan are coming back to this game nicely. Both teams with 2 barracks on each other, but right now Leviathan are still on the back foot. They lose this, or no, never mind. They didn't lose the melee barracks top. Excuse me, they're in the lead.
Yeah, in all technicality, and in any real conceivable trick other than a minor net worth disadvantage, a completely inconsequential one. They will fight 40 seconds before they're actually able to fight. Flying Zebra definitely doesn't want to fight with just one Winter's Curse. Francis just picked up a really nice item as well. It's pretty much an all-in item, I would say. This will work really, really well for exactly one team fight. Double Sonic Wave, double Scythe of Ice, double BKB. I mean, I don't have to list it. He's got 5 active items. He's got 3 major active spells, and he is going to be refreshing all of them to try to double up and burst people down. If they can really reach the full potential of their ultimates, they can absolutely destroy this Doom. And I gotta wonder what can actually do to make sure this Doom can get his Dooms off. Like, we see every fight that he's struggling with this. One of the fights was just really good counterplay from the Wisp, but the other one was the Wyvern being preemptive and beating him to the punch. I would say Lotus Orb would be a really nice answer, but there's no way that they find an item to answer it because, we're looking at the final fight here within the next 2 minutes. So I'm kind of thinking, how can they reposition? How can they lead the charge so that they can still get the fight that they want while Jeppins actually is able to cast his spells?
I think it almost exclusively relies on them getting a smoke on the Doom and Jeppins finding an angle that catches them off guard. Because right now, Leviathan have answers to both ends of the Doom initiation, either preemptively by just dropping Winter's Curse on Doom, making sure he can't get it off, or responding with the defensive relocate. No matter the case, Doom needs to find a spot that the supports don't expect him to jump from, and I don't really see that happening. It's going to be very, very difficult for the Boreal's Doom in particular, and maybe he just has to wait until after the first barrage of initiation comes out for Leviathan. All of these fights up until this point have been Boreal trying to initiate, and the last 2 in particular, Jeppins hasn't been able to do anything. But an Agnum's Doom at this late stage in the game could still completely turn it completely on its head. My goodness, I said completely like a trillion times, but regardless, back into this game. We're paused now. This is a very tense moment. Although we are paused, this game could be over in just a minute or so.
Yeah, it's really just everybody. You have about 60 seconds to pop your popcorn because this is going to get intense. I mean, every single fight has been down to the wire. Every single skill matters, and every single spellcast, their positioning of those spells, it really turn on a dime. But here we are. We see Leviathan grouped up bottom. Boreal just trying to get the creep waves out of their base. And I think Kokoni's going to have to drop some remnants and go for some BOT play. Just make sure the lanes are pushed out. But as we've seen, he's still very, very afraid. If he makes one mistake, he doesn't have a Lincoln Sphere to fall back on. If he makes one mistake, he can be caught by a single disable. A Blink Hex, a Winter's Curse, and that's a Divine Rapier on the deck. Like, he needs to push, but he can't. And I feel like that's why the Manta is worse than a Lincoln's here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ember Spirit in general is forced in that very defensive style of play, but right now, both of these teams are not on the enemy side of the turf. You're going to have Leviathan group up. They have a smoke on the courier, and it looks like they want to use this. It's not going to be your traditional smoke where you're looking through the map. You know exactly where Boreal are. They're going to be smoking right to their front door.
I think they could actually wrap around maybe towards through the top lane. There is no tower, obviously, so they don't have to worry about that. But the line
And
drawing
Queen
is
of
for
Pain's
mid.
drawing it.
Oh,
Yep.
they got two options, and maybe them call an audible depending on what they see if they find that opening. But right now the smoke is out, and that's why this heavy clumping action is happening for Boreal. But while time has elapsed, we do have two buybacks back online. One for the Ember Spirit, one for the Doom. Both going to be very critical for this next fight. Doom has Cheese, he has Refresher, he has BKB, he has buyback. He should be able to make an impact on this fight, but it's all on Leviathan here. Wrapping for the top, but no smoke, even if the Dire don't have vision just yet.
The gem on the clockwork means that they know that they haven't been spotted out yet. Leviathan will, although they didn't find the opening that they wanted, will continue playing aggressively. And this play looks so reminiscent of what we saw from Leviathan not too long ago,
Dude,
where
look at
they're
this.
forced.
This courier is scouting for Leviathan's players.
Oh.
They just need intel, and they're going to sacrifice a courier for it. Absolutely.
Do they even have to sack it? Blink for it by the Winter Wyvern. Jukes. Tiny smacks it.
Even still, that is what they wanted. They wanted the courier to die for the cause, to get the intel, and to know where the Ember Spirit could actually move. And in this case, actually the Slark. So yeah, I could see them doing that multiple times, just as necessary. I guess the Flying Courier has a cooldown. Yeah, it restocks in 3, so they'll and they also have the respawn cooldown for their second one. But yeah, that's one thing that I haven't seen too much of, even in these advanced games, as we see yet again Leviathan has pushed Dota 2 past the hour mark.
Yeah, 63 minutes. This is only game 1 in a 2-game series. We still have more after this. So if game 2 is as exciting as this one, we're in for a treat in this series as a whole. But Roshan, looks like the Aegis is going to be not there anymore. The Cheese is still 1 for the Doom, but that's about it.
Alrighty, so at least for now, we're going to be seeing everybody grouping up. No DD runes. I think that's the one thing that Leviathan are absolutely looking for, is an opportunity to bottle a DD rune. If you can give that bottle to the Tiny, like you're going to get a BKB tether charge with a DD rune, just straight up win, reasonably speaking, as long as you can connect with 1 or 2 auto attacks. But for now, they are still having to wait. Oh, 64 minutes. Speak of the devil. Will they actually go for the bottle play to try to take full advantage of that?
Ember Spirit spots it, and I'm not sure if the Flare has spotted out that double damage rune yet. It's a little sad for Boreal that they're not able to deny that DD away, but similarly, for their team, a double damage in the Ember Spirit could also just be the end of a fight outright. For Leviathan, the Tiny right now, I really want to see him replace his Blink Dagger, and I really want to see a Butterfly. If we take a look at the inventory coming out from the Slark and the Ember Spirit, they don't really have the slots appropriate in order to get a Monkey King bar. Double damage rune is going to be spot on, taken by Jenkins, hookshot in to his ally, and that's going to be a super anticlimactic ending to that double damage rune. I'm really sad they didn't save it for Shibby.
Yeah, he's just doing what he can. I guess he doesn't want a bottle. He's already running 7 item slots with the Moon Shard consumed. I'm actually trying to remember. You can no longer break evasion no matter what. Even Doom Magnums can't. So,
Doom Magnums can't break evasion. It's only MKB.
Straight up. All right. So I mean that would force an item transition from your opponents, and maybe you could do that as kind of a surprise factor. But to keep that in the courier once you have allotted that much gold. For now, Shibby just straight up is hanging on to his core 7 slot, and I mean it is a 7-second BKB still. Well, most of his items are still pretty much neat. The Blink Dagger is the one that you could argue against the most, and it still has an insane amount of value at the late game stage.
Yeah, for sure. Blink Dagger at any stage of the game is awesome on pretty much every hero, but something that I'd like to see Leviathan do, since they're not comfortable enough to go for that final set of barracks, they need to get a little bit more farm on the supports. Having a Lincoln Sphere or a Lotus Orb up on the Io or Winter Wyvern would help them so much, and Winter Wyvern's getting very close to having that amount of gold, but still, we'll have to wait and see if Flying Zebra wants to commit for the more defensive approach or just get a Hex up, but double Hex with the Refresher Orb is also very awesome.
So they're going to try to spread out a little bit here, try to find maybe an opportunity where Leviathan are stretched out across the map, but their blink in will not prove successful, and they're just going to continue to move about the map, just try to actually get some creeps killed and maybe move in towards a new item.
Doom has finally gotten a new creep. He has a Centaur stun.
Okay. Can add a lot of value as well with the Blink Dagger. I've seen as many as 4 heroes stunned up simultaneously by a single War Stomp. It comes down to positioning, and maybe it could be a big difference maker. At the very least, it's better than the Satyr. So, wow. Let's see the Divine Rapier. It's already hurting the neutrals, but heroes have yet to feel its bite.
Yeah, we haven't seen any of those side effects on the heroes because none of these teams are feeling safe enough to be anywhere near each other. Both of these teams have incredibly high threat levels on both of their sides, and the biggest difference is if we take a look at the bottom heroes, in particular the supports. The Lich, after picking up that axe, has a Vlad's and a Ghost Scepter, using ice items and all. The Lion only has a Blink and Force Staff. This just doesn't compare, especially to the Refresher Winter's Curse coming out from Leviathan. It's absolutely terrifying.
Kill streak gold, man. That's what it really comes down to. The Lion has only found 3 kills, none of them high impact. The Winter Wyvern, I forget what I quoted, but it was 1,500 gold for 1 single kill. So playing Zebra just gets that extra value that is beyond what you can get out of last hits as a support. So he even has 5k on top. It's not just the others he has, it's what he could get. But we're actually seeing the attempt at Roshan. This could get very dangerous very quickly as we see the relocate in. There's going to be a Doom attempt, but first the Chain Frost bouncing around, and this one's not going to break easily. So we're going to see the death of the Ember Spirit very early on, and they'll push onto the Lich. But where was the Doom the entire time? Jeppins finally gets it out onto Francis. It will be the death of the Queen of Pain, but they need to secure Roshan if they can get anything
They need
out
to
of it.
secure this Divine. Jenkins had the Divine, and the gem is going to go down.
That was a close call. If he could have gotten away with that, obviously he can't drop it, and it's not very valuable on the Clockwork, but it would have been out of Ember's hands. Instead, Ember gets it back and gets the Aegis to back it up, leaving a Daedalus and a Cheese inside the Roche pit.
This Ember Spirit has too many items. He can't really drop anything that he has currently in his inventory, but he's had a Mantis Style on this courier, he's had the BKB on the courier, he's had a Daedalus now. It's everything. Down towards bottom, he should be in a lot of trouble. With Blink down towards the low ground. Can they catch him? And it looks like Shibby has caught them off guard. Really nice Blink.
Yeah. Why can't I hold all these rapiers? First position problems. But we'll see. Ember Spirit still having to deal with the buyback gold penalty. He did have to buy back for that fight to get back into it, and while BOT's level 2 allows anybody to get back into the fight pretty quickly with the buyback respawn or even the relocate can be used in that capacity in some instances, it still means the Ember doesn't have that cooldown. We're going to see a refresher. Oh, the Craggy! Are you kidding me? Jeppins gets caught by the Craggy. Still gets the Doom, but gets crit down. BOT's level 2, double crit! Shibby, the RNG Master, is gonna kill off the Ember Spirit once. The Aegis down. He still has the Divine, but he's on the run. He doesn't want to risk this, but there's the Winner's Curse. Shibby will be relocated out as they need to disengage from this. But they've popped the Aegis, and Zebra might escape. No, the Abyssal will lock him in place, but even still, the Tiny is alive, and there are 5 buybacks on the side of Leviathan. Nusham, he might have to expend one, and he will be finished off here with the inevitable relocate back, but holy crap, that Craggy and those crits.
It's ridiculous how lucky Shibby got in that last fight. Anything short of that, and I don't think he lives. Like, he needed every bit of that luck. An instant kill on the Doom after the fact. And as a Doom, you must feel so terrible about that engagement. You try to get onto this Tiny, you blink in melee range, and then Craggy, you can't do anything about it, except for have your BKB up beforehand. And unfortunately, Doom didn't pop that preemptively. Buyback's available on the Winter Wyvern as it is on the Doom, and buyback has been spent by the IO, but it looks like Leviathan will continue holding. I don't think Boreal are going to feel safe at all, knowing that not only do they not have buyback in the Ember Spirit, but if he loses this rapier, game is over.
Yeah, and in fact, we have a Refresher Orb advantage for Leviathan here. 30 seconds of the cooldown of the Queen of Pain and Winter Wyvern Refresher Orbs. Tiny about to pick up for himself for the extra BOT level 2, for the extra BKB or Blink. Oh, I guess he'll drop the Blink. That would make sense. But all the same, like getting just even the extra BOTs will allow you to do so much. So the fact that now we're 90 seconds on cooldown for Doom means he can't cheese Refresher Cheese and he can't double Doom in a fight, and that's just going to give Leviathan a huge advantage that now Boreal will have to wait out.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where item pickups are getting ridiculous, in all honesty. Like, the big leaps in power are already there for all of these players. Even though having double boots of travel could be very clutch in this game, it's probably not worth the price tag. And the big heroes that we should be looking at for item leaps in power are the supports. Has Winter Wyvern committed gold yet? No, just still sitting on the 4,700 Winter Wyvern's had for the longest of times.
Absolutely loaded, and I'm trying to think of what he would want beyond this. I mean, obviously there's a big list, and I think Lincoln's is pretty high up on the list, but they haven't really given him any farm priority to make this happen, so still could be looking for something completely different. We'll have to see.
Yeah, the game's going to slow down. At this point, we've waited for every Roche and we're probably going to wait for the next one. And if this doesn't lead to a game end for the next, we're buckling down for a pretty late game scenario, but it's also very fragile. If either of these teams loses a fight without buyback, the game could be over in just a matter of seconds after that. And that's the nature of Dota 2 as it progresses to the super late game stage. This game rests on a razor's edge, although neither team wants to even risk tilting that.
And we'll see. For now, smoke play coming out for the wrap, looking around the rush pit here. Obviously, it's not going to be respawning, but maybe they can find somebody farming the Ancients. It's probably the easiest play. They saw a lot of pushing on the creep wave, though, and it looks like they just want to surge down bottom. This could be the game-deciding fight right here. Buybacks are scarce, and we'll see the initiation here on Pizza Day. Towns immediately. Shibby going to go on to Jeppins here, looking to break the Doom, and they will do so with the Winter's Curse, refreshing the curse to isolate their targets. It's going to be on the Ember Spirit with that Rapier that he gets caught inside the Winter's Curse. They're not focusing him, though. They finally get the Hex, and now the crits come through. Rapier on the deck. Jeppins does double Doom. They're not even going to try to break distance with him. They're just going to try to kill him off. He immediately refresher cheeses, or just cheeses, and he's going to be able to survive, keeping those Dooms on Francis, keeping the Doom on Shibby, as well as continuously refreshing. The Doom will not expire, and they are doomed to the grave, buying back now to try to get back into it. We'll see Shibby and Nusham relocate in, killing off Pizza Dad instantly with Bakemono is trying to Silver Edge away, but they have a gem somewhere. Flying Zebra keeping it and keeping tabs on that Slark as they bring him down for the count. 95 seconds will most likely need a buyback as we see the BOTs coming into play here. Shibby is in the enemy base. No buyback, but no Dooms either.
This Tiny is an absolute menace. He has a Divine Rapier IO to back him up, although usually the overcharge attack speed on a support isn't super relevant. IO can also do a good amount of tower damage. They need to play things safe. They need to make sure they don't get caught out by the Slark, because if Leviathan lose a couple of heroes here, it could be equally as disastrous, but as long as they wait for everybody, they should be fine. And Tiny's going to mop with the creep wave, and now they're going to go for the jugular. Slark has to buy back, and Leviathan, they're so very close to making a huge comeback happen. Boreal, can you hold?
Yeah, we're going to see Bakemono kind of caught, but also able to fight up against Jenkins here. He's not really too worried about the Blade Mail, but he's going to have to pop the BKB pretty early while Shibby just goes on the throne. They just kill off the throne here. The glyph has already been expended. Shibby will be bashed up mildly, but Leviathan have done it. They have taken game one of this two-game series here in the Frankfurt American Regional Qualifiers, and they have crushed Boreal's hopes of a solid opener here. This is their third official loss. This is Leviathan taking another incredible comeback victory here past the 73-minute mark, and I do believe that Chain Frost will be bouncing for the rest of time.
That was a huge turnaround coming up from Leviathan. Maybe the biggest comeback I've seen in recent memory. In that last fight, the Tiny was CC'd, and the overcharged Rapier IO was the one that was actually dealing the tower damage. When you get to see that, Leviathan, what a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, always bringing it to the brink, and when it comes to this late game stage, they seem to have some of the best decision making you can have, despite their lack of veteran status. Usually you associate amazing late game decision making with the pros that have been there for years and years. These guys, still a little fresh on the block, relatively speaking, but they are able to really make the calls when it counts, and it's amazing to see them at work once again. So we're going to be looking into Leviathan versus Boreal, game number 2.